Hey, you've reached Feather and Veil. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to read chapter 12, entitled Messages in the Static Between the Living and the Leaving. After we moved, due to my husband's work, we found ourselves in a small town just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The house we moved into had been built in the early 1800s. We didn't know it at the time, of course. It was a massive old brick home that had since been turned into 4 separate apartments. Our unit had a basement, a first floor, and an upstairs, and right away something felt off. The house was old, so creaks and groans were to be expected, but this just wasn't the building settling. We began hearing noises upstairs while we were on the first floor. Footsteps, movement, things shifting. That alone was strange, but then came the childlike laughter. At first, I thought it was coming from the neighbor's apartment. Turns out, they thought the same about us. A little girl's giggle, light and quick. Then there was the glowing ball of light, small, bright, flickering, floating, that would appear at the top of the stairs in the hallway. I saw it, and so did my neighbor. But the most startling moment came within our first 24 hours of moving in. I had gone to the back door after hearing a noise, and when I opened it, I was met by something I still don't fully understand. A shadow figure, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing what looked like a fisherman's hat and a trench coat. There was no face, just a void, a black silhouette, darker than the night around it. I didn't feel afraid, just surprised. The air shifted, but not in a threatening way. It stared at me as I stared at it. Then I turned my head slightly when a car passed by in the alley, and when I looked back, it was gone. Just like that. Another time I was walking upstairs to bed, and I suddenly heard the faint sound of early 1920s, 1930s music, old-time piano playing, laughter, the clink of glasses, as if there was a cocktail party happening right there in the living room. I thought maybe the TV was on, so I went downstairs, but everything was off. I went back upstairs, and the music returned, faint, ghostly, but celebratory. Days later, it was the sound of cows, loud, distressed mooing in the distance. It was so vivid, I went outside, thinking maybe a cow had gotten loose from somewhere. But there were no cows, no farms nearby, and the neighbors, their homes were dark. No one was there. One night I saw something else. An African American woman, clear as day, walking down into my basement. Just like a movie playing in real time. A flash, a presence, gone. Eventually, I went to the Historical Society. I needed to understand. The building, they told me, had once been part of the Underground Railroad. Later, it became a cow slaughtering and meat packing site. Then, during the Prohibition, it was a hidden speakeasy. Later still, it became a pharmacy. The pharmacist's daughter had died in what was our section of the house. Layers upon layers of history and all that energy that came with it. I didn't imagine these things. They were happening, and they weren't finished yet. Not long after, I returned to West Virginia to support one of my dearest friends, C. Her husband, T, had recently passed from liver cancer. I stayed with her in her home to help her through the funeral arrangements and to help with her grief. The first few days were filled with a strange kind of quiet, except for one peculiar thing. We kept finding T's blood sugar strips scattered around the house. He had been a type 1 diabetic, but after he passed, all his medical supplies had been put away. And yet, every day we'd find more used test strips on the floor, the counter, even by the bed. It was unsettling and oddly comforting at the same time, like he was still there leaving signs reminding us of his presence. Then one day, something even stranger happened. We were upstairs in the kitchen. C was cooking, something that she was very good at, and I was sitting nearby on a stool keeping her company while the radio played quietly in the background. All at once, the radio made a static noise, and then it cut out completely, and then the power goes out to the house. Then we heard it, a strange mechanical buzzing and beeping like electricity in motion coming down the hallway toward us. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt. It pulsed. I got up and walked toward the hallway, trying to escape it. C, alarmed, called out in silence. T, is that you? I turned to look at her like she'd lost her mind. T was dead, but that sound, that energy, it was getting closer. We ran down 2 flights of stairs trying to get away from it, but the sound followed us down the stairs, louder, more intense. Then the whole house started vibrating. I turned to C and said, "You better tell your husband to back the fuck up. He's starting to scare me." She stood up straight and yelled into the room, "TC, you stop that right now. You're scaring Cheryl." And just like that, a loud thunderclap, and the power came back on, lights flickered to life, and the sound disappeared. We were in shock. There was no rational explanation, just the weight of something that wanted to be seen, felt, heard. The funeral came and went. It was emotional, raw, full of love and grief. At the graveside service, C released a pair of doves. We expected them to fly away. Instead, they circled overhead a few times, then swooped down toward the group before soaring away. It felt sacred, like he was saying goodbye. A couple of weeks later, C and I decided to attend the annual Lavender Fair in a neighboring county. Excuse me. I don't even know where my drink is. Oh, it's all the way over there. Anywho, we needed something light, something healing. The fair was set on a beautiful the fair was set on a beautiful farm covered in lavender fields. There were booths and classes and workshops on everything from herbal remedies to meditation. There was a labyrinth. I'd never walked a labyrinth before. Before the walk, we were told to carry an intention or question into the center of the path, something unresolved. I knew what mine was right away. My spirituality, my gifts, my confusion, my purpose. As I walked the winding path, the outside world began to fall away. I began to hear laughter, light, magical. Not from anywhere near me, though. Leaves were rustling in the trees in the distance, but the air was still. When I reached the center of the labyrinth, I found my clarity in the form of something or someone truly magical. A woman appeared, though she didn't quite seem real. Her hair was long and flowing. Her clothes looked like they were sewn from leaves and vines. She had jewelry that shimmered in strange ways I'd never seen before. She had makeup on as well, but it looked otherworldly. She looked like a fairy, a human fairy. She smiled. No words were spoken, but I felt seen. I felt validated. That moment reminded me the spiritual world speaks in ways we don't always expect, whether it's in an old house full of echoes or a labyrinth on a lavender farm. When the veil thins, magic happens. Grief is strange. It carves out silence and fills it with echoes. During those days with C, it felt like we were living in a space between worlds. The veil wasn't just thin, it was pulsing, and signs were everywhere, from the blood sugar strips showing up in places that had already been cleared away, to the static, buzzing presence that followed us through the house. Rational minds would chalk it up to stress or coincidence, but my spirit knew better. T was trying to make his presence known, trying to communicate, trying to comfort, to warn, to love, maybe all of it at once. When C finally found the strength to call out to him, to tell him to stop, to set a boundary, the house answered with thunder and light. The power came back on, and maybe something else did too. Maybe her power, maybe mine. The deeper I move into this life of spirit and sense, the more I've learned to trust in the inexplicable, to listen, to observe, to acknowledge. I don't always understand what's happening around me, but I no longer question that it is happening. There is a world beyond this one, layered like fog across the everyday, and sometimes it breaks through. Whether it's a voice in the static, a shadow in the doorway, or a dove circling the sky at a funeral, it all speaks to something sacred, something enduring. Love doesn't die, and neither do we, not really. We change form, we pass through, we visit when needed. That time with C taught me more than I expected, not just supporting the friend through grief, but about the persistence of spirit and the importance of acknowledging it when it arrives, even when it startles you, especially when it startles you. And I still have that amethyst necklace I picked up at the Lavender Fair that summer, a quiet token of healing, remembrance, and the magic. It rests against my heart like a whisper, reminding me we are never alone as we think. Well, if you like this kind of content, I hope you hit like and subscribe. Follow me along. I do go over to TikTok and do lives over there. So don't forget there's a comment section if y'all have any questions or any comments. Thank you for listening. Until next time, be gentle with your soul. Always walk in kindness. And always, always trust in your light. Bye!